friends, we are live. Welcome to Shy Beer Guy's Beer Guide. I'm going to turn this off 1 second. So, welcome for those of you out there that are watching. If you've never watched before, this is my guide to beer. I do live reviews on this show, or this version of my page. This piece of content that I do. Shy Beer Guy's Beer Guide is predicated on just my opinion about local Chicago beer. I try to give my opinion to the best of my ability, the most fair opinion that I can possibly give for beers in the area. And I know there's a lot to choose from, so something that I really enjoy doing, and I want to thank all my supporters, the people that watch on a regular basis, for continuing to watch and supporting me. And for those that are just watching, stay tuned. I like to review a lot of really good beers. If you have any suggestions on beers that you would like to see me review, that you feel like I would like, then go ahead and give me those in the comments, or you can always message me if you just want to talk beer. We can always do that as well. I'm pretty active in the online spaces, so if you ever just want to chit chat about beer, just shoot me a message and we can talk. So today, for you guys watching, I am going to be reviewing the Sticky Gummy New England Style IPA, or as they affectionately named it, the Northeast Style IPA by Noon Whistle Brewing. They're out of Lombard. So it's a Chicagoland area brewery. For those who aren't too familiar, who are stuck on the north side of the city, or if you are way south, Noon Whistle does some really good hazy style IPAs. I really enjoy doing these, the gummies, because I like to compare them to each individual gummy. However, I was actually speaking with Mike Condon, who is one of the owners and brewers at Noon Whistle at Lombard Ale Fest last weekend. We were just talking a little bit about the gummies and how they line up to one another, and I think the idea with each individual gummy is that they are different from one another. And I see in the social spaces a lot of people, they will tend to compare them too harshly to one another. So this one I'm actually super excited for. This is the Sticky Gummy. It's a triple dry hopped New England style IPA by Noon Whistle. So I'm gonna pop this open, and for those that haven't heard of this brewery or seen this before, I'll show you. They've got the full 360 pop top style cans, which is one of my favorite things on this planet in terms of cans of beer. So let's give it a pour. I won't take up too much of your time. So the pour right off the bat, looking at the color, it's very typical, not very translucent. This is a really true, deep, but also bright orange color. Super nice color, actually. And I'll hold that up for you guys. And I know the lighting always seems to be off slightly, but I can tell you that it's a really deep orange, but also very bright. The way the light is hitting it right now, coming through the window, it's extremely bright color. The head retention was very minimal, less than a pinky, about half a pinky, so just a couple centimeters there, which is interesting. Could have been the way I poured it. I probably could have gotten a lot more head out of it, a lot more head out of the beer, but I guess it's got relatively low carbonation. You know, with these hazy styles, you never really know anyway. But we'll jump into the aroma. Okay, smells really typical as a gummy would. You know, some kind of tropical, slight pineapple notes on the nose. Definitely really bright, citrusy. Most of the hazy styles are. This is, again, a triple dry hopped New England style IPA or Northeast style IPA. So the aroma is definitely very pungent. It's very prominent, and it smells really nice, but typical of what a gummy would smell. However, this is definitely one of the most pungent that I've smelled in recent days or recent times. So it smells really nice, definitely really smooth. Let's jump into the taste. Oh, I'll talk about the lacing. So the lacing seems to be very, very prominent. It's holding its ground on the side of the glass there. I don't know if you can really tell, but and for those who don't know what lacing is, it's the sediment of the head retention that sits on the side of the glass as you drink the beer. But we'll just jump right into it. Okay. So it's definitely really good. And again, this is just my opinion, but it's a lot different than a lot of other gummies that I've had. I'm trying to put my tongue on what it is I'm tasting here, and again, it'll develop as I continue to go along. But first impression, first sip, big hops, super big hops, medium bitterness, I'd say, on the front end. Mid palate is actually a lot more orange and citrus than I was expecting. Let's jump into it once more. Wow, it is really nice. I've heard a lot of really good things about this. I don't know what it is that I'm tasting. It's very, very distinct comparatively to the other gummies. That's separating it from them. Overall, the body is nice, heavy body for a New England style, and it's got a little bit of dryness as well on the front end where the hops are, and it's kind of smoothed out on the back end by those that fruity tropical flavor. But I'm catching more orange and citrus than I expected. My taste buds might be off a little bit. If you've had this beer, let me know if you caught the same thing. The best way I can describe it is just like I said, real big hops on the front end, medium to low bitterness. At first taste, it tastes a little more hoppy than you think it might be. The second and third sips kind of died down a little bit. But the mid palate definitely pretty orangey, and it's very, very, very smooth on the back end. Definitely packed full of a lot of flavor and body. I'm just curious. I'm having a hard time putting my tongue on what the distinct difference is. Maybe just because it's triple dry hopped, it's more. There's a lot more going on. But all I'm catching is some of that oranginess. I don't really catch a whole lot of pineapple. The aroma is super, super nice. But definitely super juicy orange mixed with slight subtle peach on the mid palate, and then it's really smoothed out, kind of lactosey tasting on the back end. The malt is kind of bready as well. It's a little bit bready, like fresh baked bread, and I don't really say that a whole lot in a whole lot of beers, but it is kind of bready. It didn't really smell that way, but it's tasting that way. I'm really enjoying the way the hops are opening up and sitting on the tip of my tongue. It kind of just lingers around and opens up like this is definitely a flower beer. And for those who haven't seen my reviews before, what I mean by flower beer is a lot of these New England styles, and even some really nice adjunct stouts, they tend to, as they warm and as you continue to drink them, they tend to open up kind of like a blooming flower where there's different layers, or like an onion. I guess you can call it an onion beer. I've been calling it a blooming flower for a while. It's almost like a blooming flower where you'll see it at first glance starting to open up, and eventually it'll open up completely, and you'll see the colors and intricacies of the flower. Or like I said, if you want to use the onion analogy, it's like peeling back layers of an onion to get to the core. Again, I'm enjoying the way the hop prominence is opening up and lingering on the tip of my tongue, and the oranginess kind of just really smooths things out and takes the bitterness back a little bit. It's not very bitter to begin with, but it gives it a really nice balance. And again, you've got some subtle peach in there, following that oranginess, and some bready malt and smooth, nice, smooth, full mouthfeel. So that's really, really, it's really, really nice. I think this one is gonna take the cake for me. It's honestly really, really tasty. And I didn't give you guys the specs. It's again Northeast style IPA, 6.9% alcohol by volume. It's definitely triple dry hopped. It definitely brought out a lot in the aroma and the way the the hops kind of open up as you continue to drink it. So this is really, really, really nice. And I've heard, for those of you watching, I've heard lots of good things about this. I've heard lots of people say that it's their favorite gummy, and I'm happy to say that it's mine as well. The majority of these beer reviews that I've done have been lots of really, really good beers, and I tend to speak highly of most of them, but this is definitely a topper of the list. And I've had a lot of good beer on these reviews, but this is definitely a standout for me. So I really appreciate this beer. If you had this before, let me know your thoughts in the comments, please. I would love to just chit chat back and forth about it. Let me know what you thought, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Again, this is just my opinion on all of the beers in Chicago, and I try to do solely Chicago beers, and I think for the most part I've done mostly Chicago beers, or all Chicago beers. So I'm trying to get the word out about the Chicago beer scene. You know, I've told this story before, but for those watching, about 6 months to a year ago, it'll be a year ago in, no, actually 2 years ago in August. No, it might have been a year ago. A year ago in August, I went to Denver, and I popped around the art district there to a couple different breweries with a buddy of mine, and I went up to the bartender and I asked if they had anything hazy on, any hazy styles. And this is around the time when hazy styles just started making its way here in the Chicago market on the East Coast and in the Midwest. And I remember the bartender looking at me going, "Hazy? What's hazy? Hazy?" You know, and I'm like, oh man, you know, Chicago, this is what's happening in Chicago, you know, Chicago beer. And he kind of scoffed at me. He's like, Chicago has good beer? Anyway, it kind of ruffled my feathers a little bit, and kind of made me mad that nobody there knew about Chicago beer or gave Chicago beer, the Chicago beer scene, its respect, because I think we have some of the best beer in the country. And I would even go as far as to say we are top 3 in the nation in terms of beer scene and the quality of beers and quantity of breweries as well. So I think Chicago is just an awesome place for beer, and I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a great place to live due to the economy, but
good.
It's definitely a great place to visit in terms of beer. Not only in the city, but also in the suburbs as well. You know, Chicago and Chicagoland areas are all making some really, really great beer. So that's kind of the point of my page here for those watching, and for those that have watched me consistently. Again, I appreciate your support, and I hope that the newcomers, all of you that are watching now, if this is your first time watching me, just give me some support. I'm just trying to get the Chicago beer scene out there, and you know, really shed some light for the people that don't know too much about it. But going back to this beer, Noon Whistle makes really great stuff. I really love this series, and this is definitely a topper in terms of the series, and probably in all of the beers I've had thus far in 2018. Beer Advocate gives us a 4.03 out of 5. This is absolutely fantastic, and my last review was the Hop Nowie by Energy City, and I was really impressed with that. I actually think this beats that, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, so don't shoot me in the foot over that. But 4.03 out of 5 is what Beer Advocate gives it. I'm going to give it a 4.9 out of 5, and yes, it is that good. But yes, I wanted to talk about Beer Advocate. I had somebody ask me the other day, why do you reference Beer Advocate and not Untappd? For those that are big Untappd people, I'm not really into Untappd in terms of referencing stuff, because I know tons and tons of people are on Untappd that are into the beer scene and definitely well educated, but there are also tons of people that are on Untappd that aren't too educated on beer, and they have no basis for a comparison. So from what I've come to understand over using Beer Advocate the past couple years for references and beer knowledge, most of the people on that site are very educated in the beer scene. So the ratings, I feel, are most fair. Untappd, however, is not something I choose to reference, because I know there are tons of people who don't necessarily know too much about beer. So I try not to draw a comparison to majority of people or the masses on Untappd, because there's not a big basis for reference. And yeah, that's about it in terms of that. But again, 4.9 out of 5, and I'm only shaving it that extra point because I'm leaving room for something that is better. But it's going to be hard to top this for the rest of the year. I honestly think it's super fantastic. Definitely really tasty, flavorful. It's a flour beer, it's an onion beer, whatever you want to call it. Flour, onion, flunion, I don't know. But it's a solid beer. And for those of you, again, that have stuck around for the entirety of this video, I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. If you haven't had a chance to check out my second episode of Beer Banter, it's pinned at the top of my page here. So all you have to do is click on my little guy, my icon. It's going to be up here, I believe, somewhere. Click on the icon and it'll take you to my page. I have the second episode of Beer Banter. I sat down with Tommy from Brickstone. That's pinned at the top of my page. I believe that's about it, though. I'm going to let you guys go. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, and I thank you guys for the continued support. I've gotten so much support, and I didn't expect my page to go this far. I still have a long way to go, but for those of you that have been watching and commenting, I really do appreciate all of your support and comments, and I want you to keep them coming. Just know that I really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, this is Shy Beer Guy, Shy Beer Guy's Beer Guide. Hopefully you enjoyed everything. Take it easy. Don't forget, hashtag drink Chicago beer, and check out Beer Banter. Today, for my beer drinkers and friends, we are doing a dual review. I get to drink 2 beers in one sitting.